Hey guys, Deryck Poole here. I want to talk to you guys for a few minutes about the proper way of mounting a red dot optic to your pistol. It's a question that's coming in a lot more now that more manufacturers out there are making guns that are optic ready. So I wanted to go over the process, some of the things you're going to need to get it done. Obviously, if your gun comes ready to go, you might want to look at the manual first, right? A lot of times, sometimes in the manual, they'll put the actual specs, torque specs, and those sort of things of how to mount, how they want you to mount it. But in the event that you've sent your slide out to have it milled, or there are no directions in your manual, here's generally the way that I do it. I have a Canic here that was a tour gun that is optics ready. You're gonna need a few items to actually get this done. First, go to your wife, ask very nicely if you can borrow some fingernail polish remover. This acetone, we need the acetone. We'll use that to like degrease the gun before we start. We've like cleaned the gun, and then we want to make sure that there's no residual oil or anything like that in the threads or on the mounting surface. So we're going to use that. You're also going to need some sort of driver. I like to use a T-handle because we're going to need to put some torque on this and measure the torque. The T-handle makes it pretty easy to add torque without over torquing and get you a lot of control. You can use a 1/4-inch screwdriver that allows a different size bits to put in it, but this is the one I like to use, right? And I just mentioned it, you're going to need some way of applying torque, right, and knowing what amount of torque you're actually putting on the screws. This is a little 1/4-inch driver insert that I can just put into my T-handle and determine what kind of torque I'm putting on these screws. For your screws, I mentioned you're going to need some sort of locking thread locker. For me, I like to use the Vibra-Type VC3. It's advertised and specifically designed for use on firearms and rifles. So this is the one I've been going to. And then finally, you're gonna need a couple oil-based paint marker pens, and we're gonna use those for indexing as well as a little additional adhesion for the mounting screws. So to start off, we wanna clean our gun. And then once we've got the gun all clean, we're gonna take that acetone and we're gonna just wipe down the surfaces, right? To make sure that anything that we might have left behind on the slide, we're gonna, make sure that we get it off. The acetone will dry pretty quick, so we'll just hit the parts that we're using with the acetone, right? Once we've gotten that set, we're gonna have to prep our screws. Now these, I did them ahead of time. I grabbed the Vibra-Tite, coated the threads a little bit, and these have been sitting for the recommended 15 minutes, allowing it to set up. Letting it set up allows it to get a little bit stickier, and it'll get a good bite right out of the gate for you, right? So looks like the acetone is all dried up for us. So we're gonna start our mounting. I'm gonna insert the plate that came with the Canic. There's different plates that will come with certain guns to make certain optics work. So this is the plate that works with the Canic's red dot. So I'm gonna drop the red dot down on top of the plate, make sure everything's all lined up, nice and flat. And I'm gonna grab my first set of screws, and what I do is, with the Vibra-Tite, I'm just gonna get the screws started on both sides. Grab my little 1/4-inch drive. I'm gonna make sure that it's going in nice and straight. Grab the other one and get it started. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just run the screws down until they're just barely touching. I can feel them, they've made contact with the optic. Once I know that they're both pretty equal, touching the face of the optic, then I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna grab my torque driver. This is a 1/4-inch driver that you just attach to the handle that I'm using. And on this, I don't know if you can actually see it or not, the way this one works, if you're familiar with torque wrenches, normally you'll pull and you'll get a click when you get to the desired torque value that you're looking for. On this one, it doesn't work that way. There's a little line down here, and as I turn and it's applying pressure, that line's going to move. What I'm gonna look for here is on this size of a screw, I like to go about 10 inch-pounds of torque. The 10 inch-pounds over the years is what I've been using, and it seems to be working. I haven't had optics come loose or anything like that, so 10 pounds seems to be sufficient. So I'll put my Torx driver in there, and I'm gonna start turning it, keeping a good eye on the line. Right there, I'm actually hitting the 10. Let me turn it around to the camera, maybe so you can actually see what's going on here. There's the line. As I turn, see the line matches up to the 10. I sort of sit there, hold it to the 10 for a second to know I'm getting 10 inch-pounds, and then release. So now I have both screws mounted with 10 inch-pounds of torque on them. Now we're gonna come over to our markers. And what I like to do with the marker is I shake it up and get it ready to use, get the paint mixed inside, sort of like a spray can. And I'm gonna grab it. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna take the marker and I'm gonna follow it around the screw as best I can. Gonna lay down a nice blue paint ring on there. I do this because it sort of gives you two benefits. One, it's going to give you additional adhesion. This paint is going to sort of soak in around the edge of the screw and sort of marry it to the top of the optic. If you've ever painted a house or something, you've painted over something, and then you try to remove whatever it was, you painted over a screw of a light cover, and then you try to remove it, that paint makes it a little bit harder to get the screw out. So this is just giving us a little extra insurance that these screws aren't going to back out on us. So I paint it up as so. So the last step in the process is I'm going to take a different color marker. This one's a yellow. And when this blue paint dries, I'm going to actually put index marks on it. Because this hasn't dried and we're not going to sit here and let the camera roll for 5 minutes while that dries, I'm going to show you another gun that I've already done. As you can see, I used the paint around the screw itself, and then I used the yellow paint to actually give me index marks. Those index marks allow me over time, as I go to the range, I go to training, and I start shooting, every once in a while I can glance down and see, has that yellow line moved at all? It's my index mark move, and is my optic gotten looser? So that's the basic way of getting a red dot optic mounted to a pistol. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, send them in, and hope to see you out on the range. Thanks.